Okay, welcome everybody. Welcome to the latest of the Tableau user group meetings, run out of Melbourne, but really a global event at this stage, given our remote nature and all of that sort of stuff. I just want to remind everybody that today's, including any potential that people put out there or Q&A, will also be recorded as part of the proceedings as well. For all joining us, I just wanted to, first of all, kick things off by saying those who haven't joined before, just a very, very brief introduction. My name's Paul Hodge. I've been around the traps, around the industry for more years than I care to count sometimes. But I grew up here in Victoria and grew up and went to school in Melbourne. And then subsequently ended up traveling and living in Hong Kong and Tokyo for a few years during the 90s. And then spent most of the 2000s in New York working in the life sciences industry there. And recently I've come back to Melbourne and I have been working in the retail space, including things like retail banking and retail gas and insurance and those perspective. But then I actually evolved with the universities. So I ended up doing a lot of lecturing with the universities, including Deakin, Melbourne Business School, and La Trobe University as well. And that led me down a pathway of providing a lot more education. So my focus is now actually on corporate education in the space of data storytelling and data visualization, which is a great segue because it's one of the best data storytelling platforms around, as you're all aware, and I do have the opportunity to use Tableau in many of the tutorials that I do for the students at the university, because Tableau has very generous, shall I say, academic licensing, which includes 1 year licensing for full-time students. They can actually register and get full license access to the Tableau product range by providing some student information, that sort of stuff. So fantastic support from Tableau for the academic community, which is really, really great. So I just want to give them a nod for that as well. I also want to give a nod, of course, for the circumstances that we all find ourselves in. I know this is an unusual Tableau user group. Normally we run these in person. For those who haven't been to a Tableau user group here in Melbourne before, we often have some fantastic facilities available at either La Trobe University in the city or various other organisations that provide us with great venues. We often have 100, 150 people attend those events, and so it's a great networking opportunity. We also do workshops occasionally as well, where we get a data set and have some fun with data and do competitions and all that sort of stuff as well. So it's a really fun community to be part of. Unfortunately, obviously, because of COVID, many of you might know this dashboard. This is a dashboard from the Johns Hopkins University over in the States. I don't think it's using Tableau, but it has some great information on there. And unfortunately, really indicates that we've crossed a terrible milestone, because we're actually just crossed the million deaths, formally a million deaths around the world, which is a terrible situation to be in. More than 33 million registered cases around the world as well. So I really, the reason I put this up here is just to really thank everybody for hanging in there. I know these are difficult times, especially anybody who's living in Melbourne and Victoria, especially complex times. Hopefully there's some light at the end of the tunnel for everybody concerned, but I know it's still a tricky system to navigate. And I really just appreciate this Tableau community staying together and staying in touch and remaining active. So I really appreciate everybody taking the time, especially the speakers and all of you who are attending today. The other thing that I want to give a quick nod to, so some of you might not be aware, but Tableau, their annual conference is actually just about to occur. And again, a unique opportunity comes from the situation that we're in, which is that the entire Tableau conference is actually going to be online, and it's actually free to register. So please take the time to look up Tableau Conference 2020. and do a registration. What's really nice about this particular conference is that because it's being done online, I imagine a lot of the talks are being recorded, but there's also a very large global community. And as a result of that, they actually have Asia Pacific friendly time zones too. So I've actually put it up there that in fact, from the 7th to the 9th of October is when it's going to be playing in Asia Pacific, which is fantastic. And in fact, the program will run from 9 a.m. till 3 p.m. our time. So, which is great because, you know, quite often I'm having to climb out of bed at 2 o'clock in the morning to see some keynote speech. And this is a fantastic opportunity for us to participate in that event using the Asia Pacific time zone. So again, great effort that Tableau is going through to make sure that their conference is accessible to everybody during these very, very difficult times. I also want to give a little quick shout out because some of the local Tableau folks who help support this user group are actually running some sessions during the 3-day event. In fact, I believe it's on day 3. There's actually a fun resume building activity going on, and they're actually going to show you how to use Tableau to build a resume, which may be very topical during these times if you're looking for new work and all that sort of stuff. So really a great opportunity to do that. And so keep an eye open for that. I think it's on day 3 of the event, but there's many hours of various tutorials covering everything from data prep through advanced visualizations and everything in between, governance, data governance, and lots of new features arriving in Tableau on a regular basis. So really great opportunity for you to get exposure to that whenever you get a chance to. Not a lot of sponsors time around. Just wait for my screen to come up. There we go. Not a lot of sponsors this time around. Tableau has been kind enough to provide this corporate level Zoom because we have quite a lot of people on the call today. So that's really, really great. And I'll give a nod out to myself again for helping do logistics and that sort of stuff. Normally I help with some lollies. Oh, that's me again. Hopefully I'm back. Let me just do that share again. That's our whole fun network going on, right? And that's my printer's going to start printing. So I'm going to stop that. Let me do that screen share again. Yeah, so here's the agenda for today. I just wanted to share that with you and just suggest what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly shut my video off just to save a little bit of bandwidth here as well. So let me turn my video sharing off now as well. So we've gone through some welcoming remarks and again, I just want to thank everybody for being here. We're going to go through some very brief introductions now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you who our speakers are, and we'll run through that very briefly. I'll give a little bit of background on their bios and all of that sort of stuff. And then we're going to run through all of those speakers. And then at the very end, we'll have an opportunity to sort of come back. If anybody's got any announcements and questions and that sort of stuff, they'll be able to ask them as we go along. In terms of logistics, just the way that we can interact with the speakers, probably the easiest way for you to interact with the speakers is to use the Q&A feature. So those of you, I'm sure many of you have been using Zoom, but if you don't know, if you hover towards either the bottom or the top of your screen, you'll see a little menu will pop up or drop down, which has your video and your mute. Everybody's on mute, so all of you who are in the audience are all automatically on mute. But there is a Q&A panel there. So rather than using the chat panel, if you have any questions during any of the sessions, please use the Q&A panel. We may not have time at each of the talks to actually address those questions. And so if you do have any burning questions that come up afterwards, please, by all means, reach out to any of the speakers through LinkedIn or through other mechanisms. I'm sure they'd love to hear from you. They'd love to hear what you thought of their talk. They'd love to hear what questions you had and that sort of stuff as well. So please, by all means, reach out to the speakers after the fact. But what I'm going to do now is, quickly run through the speakers with you and just share a quick little bio. So I'm going to go through all of the speakers first, and then I'll hand off to them and they'll do their individual talks. So we've got 4 different talks today involving 6 different people. Our first presenter is going to be Grant Henderson. Grant is a data analyst and certified Tableau associate that works with a company called Perceptive Data, run here out of Melbourne. If you need any help deriving insights from data, then Grant can definitely help. In his role with Perceptive Data, Grant helps various clients across a range of different industries to transform their data, visualize it, analyze it, and provide insights that help them with their strategic decision making. Grant's also a really key developer in a service called Race Explorer, which actually helps people visually or visualize race analytics for timed sporting events as well. So that's a really interesting aspect to what Grant's been doing, and we may get a little bit of a insight into that during his talk. Now, Grant's going to be followed by Larisa and Mohammed. Larisa is actually an analytics professional at Deakin University with more than 20 years experience, spanning again multiple industries. She's actually a data storyteller with very artistic flair and focuses on building bridges between data scientists, so she's got that sort of data scientist skills, and various business stakeholders, and they're helping focus on solving business challenges. Larisa is also a devoted parent with 2 teenage boys, which I can only imagine how complicated that's been over the last 6 months. And she also has a passion for healing and energy medicine. So if you're interested in following up with that conversation at some point, I'm sure Larisa would be only too happy to hear from you. As I said, Larisa is going to be joined by Mohammed. And after finishing his studies in business analytics, Mohammed actually joined the Data School of Australia as a Tableau and Alteryx consultant. And he's focused very much on data analytics, process automation and data storytelling. And loves cooking during his free time, which again, I can only imagine is a great skill to have, recently. Then Larisa and Mohammed are actually going to be followed up by Satyam. Satyam's actually an electrical engineer and has held multiple positions in sort of various data analyst positions across consumer goods, retail, and transportation. He actually finds himself right at the moment at Transurban, specialising in AWS, Tableau and Tableau Prep, and is basically driving innovation at various projects at Transurban. During his free time, he also loves reading books and cooking various cuisines for his friends and family. So I'm sure he's very popular when that comes around as well. And then our last set of speakers, we're going to finally hear from 2 solution engineers directly from Tableau, who are going to talk about some of the latest developments in the Tableau range. We've got Schmitt and Sharanu Patil, who Roger's got about 15, he's a 15-year veteran of solution consulting across companies like IBM, Dell, Documentum, and just before joining Tableau, actually worked at Informatica as well, sort of working with, plumbing data across the world and all that sort of stuff. He enjoys all things data, and that's part of the reason why he loves now working for Tableau. On the personal side, Roger tells me that he's Canadian, so we'll all need to keep an eye open for how often he says a boot during his presentation and give him a rev up like Australians tend to when we hear that. And then finally, Sharanu is going to, he's also a solution engineer based out of Melbourne, working with public sector organisations in Victoria. And he really enjoys working with customers solving business problems, especially using Tableau. And again, during his spare time, loves reading and has 2 kids and enjoys, I think this might be in inverted brackets or inverted quotes rather, enjoys Melbourne weather. I'm not sure whether that's a sarcastic comment or not. But what I want to do first of all is welcome to the table Grant, and I'll let Grant take the screen share from now, and look forward to hearing what Grant's got to say. Thanks very much, Grant. Take it away.
Thanks, Paul, and thanks everybody for tuning in. If that's the right term, it's certainly really good to connect with everybody again. I've met a lot of you at the user group over the last couple of years, and yeah, a shame that we can't be there in person at the moment. But you know, we look forward to that day coming around really soon. I had to have a little giggle, Paul, when you mentioned about putting the questions in the Q&A. I was taking a university session with university students, obviously. Fairly recently, and I was encouraging them to interact with the chat, but I got on a roll and I forgot to check it, and it was probably 5 or 10 minutes in, and I did see a remark there and it said, "We can't hear you." So yeah, so that sort of backfired a bit. So I'll get you to monitor that as we go. Now I need to share the screen. Paul, I think I'm still looking at your one. I don't know whether I can share over the top. Here we go. And I think I'm on now. So, yeah, great to be able to present this afternoon. And what I wanted to start with, I guess, is I was thinking about what sort of project would be an interesting one to talk about tonight. And this is certainly a unique one that I've had the opportunity of doing. And it was one that was, I got offered this opportunity very early on when I started doing some consultancy in data visualization and Tableau. And I was approached by a tech school. There's a tech school in Victoria. There's 10 of them, and I'll talk about it in a little bit more detail soon. But what they look at doing is that they focus on STEM skills for school students, and what they try and do is connect school students with industry and with the latest in technology and data is one of those areas. So I was approached to see if we could put together a program in data literacy for school students, and I thought, well, what a good chance to introduce Tableau into the school environment. And certainly this was actually a project that we started last year. But I can't recall a time, you know, certainly since I've been alive, the data's been so prevalent and important in our daily lives. And this is really important for our young people as well. With the unfortunate arrival, obviously, of COVID this year, we've seen such an explosion in the media of the reporting of statistics. And this has in turn challenged the community, including our young people, to try and navigate this data and make meaning from it. So I guess there'll be a lot more people in Victoria now who understand a rolling average that perhaps previously hadn't been exposed to, or maybe never ever had the interest in trying to understand. And our young people are certainly no different to that, and they'll be seeing a lot more data in their lives than what they presently have. So this presents a really important opportunity for us to see how we can develop these skills into our young people. They're not only going to require data analytics skills in their future careers, but it's also just part of being an informed citizen to be able to navigate this data. So what I thought I'd do this afternoon is take you through a shortened version of this journey of the project, and look at how we went about developing some of these core data literacy skills in our schools. Now, I know when I mention schools, and I'm in this boat too, there's probably a few people out there going, "Oh, please don't talk to me again about school curriculum." I've had a term of it, and certainly I've got 3 that have been home with me for the last term, and we've been presented with some unique challenges. But what I'm trying to do tonight also, or this afternoon also, is build a bridge between the parallels between designing a data literacy curriculum for adolescents. And I think there are some parallels between this and how we can apply it to a workplace as well. And there might be some of us out there who have had to, probably many of us have had that challenge of delivering training in the workplace. So I'm going to try and connect with what we did in this project with how I think that can relate to our workplace as well. So the project, we'll just see if we can get to that next slide there. The project is a collaboration between the Ballarat Tech School, which is actually where I'm located in Buninyong, which is near Ballarat, and the CSIRO, which was the industry partner for this particular project. Now, I can't speak for your experience with data analytics in school, but for mine, one of my recollections, and this is going back a while, let's round it down to 20 years, was we used to record our heights, and then we'd grab the pen and paper and we'd plot some bar graphs on graph paper, and those that were in the creative state of mind would get their coloured pencils out, and we'd have a different colour for each student. And the challenge, I think, in teaching data analytics to school students is engaging the students in the data set. And heights wasn't a bad example because kids tend to enjoy working with data about themselves because they've got some sort of level, of investment in that data. It didn't particularly go down too well with me because being of short stature, that plotted me usually in the middle of the girls in the class. But anyway, we got over that. But as I also have a background in teaching in secondary schools, so I was sort of quite familiar with how our data literacy is progressing in schools. And to be honest, a lot of things, and each school will be independent and have different levels of their progress in this area, but there hasn't been a lot of growth, I don't think, in the data literacy spectrum or curriculum in the schools. Some schools are using Excel to work with data, some aren't, and certainly you'd be very, very few would have exposure to a BI platform, let alone a modern BI, tool such as Tableau in the school. So within the program, we've got this challenge of this project. We had the challenge of not only engaging students in the data that they'd be working with, but also how do we build a foundational base for the development of the data analytics skills? And I guess this is probably our first parallel this afternoon in that we're looking at, when you're doing training in the workplace, you've also got a diverse group of people coming in with a whole wide spectrum of skills and experience and confidence in being able to navigate and work with the data. So this project was about the CSIRO do a project unrelated to schools around analysing bee data. And to do this, what they do is they put these small RFID chips on the back of the bees. They actually use a super glue to put them on. And what they do is they're then able to monitor the bees going in and out of hives, often from one hive to another. And obviously they use this to form, as the basis of their research. So what they've done is they've allowed this technology to be used by the tech schools. And the Ballarat Tech School have been able to have their own hive, and the CSIRO have provided the equipment to be able to allow the students to be able to undertake this monitoring of the bees and analyse this data. So our challenge is how do we actually get the students involved in this project within a single day? So a quite exciting project too, and could the bees hold the key to engaging the students in the data? So where do you start then when you're planning a data literacy curriculum? There's a couple of options that we have. We could start with the raw data set, and this is often when we're building a training program, we start with looking at that raw data set. But to confront students with a data set like this could be a little bit overwhelming, a whole heap of numbers, and how do they make sense of that? Going the other end of the spectrum, do we start with actual visualizations itself and work backwards? Because this has, a nice sort of graphical feel to it. Is that going to engage the students in the data a little bit more? And you probably consider when you first trained in Tableau, the first time that you saw Tableau, what was the first step you took when you were learning the software? Were you presented with a dashboard to start with and you work backwards? Or typically, and I know this was the experience for me, I started with that data source connection page. And for many of us that might understand that underlying data, it could be a good fit. But what about when you're designing a course for others that might not share our levels of data literacy? What's a good place to start? If you think about it, there are so many different places that you can actually start. We could start at the data collection phase. How did that data actually get into into a spreadsheet format or a database format? We could start by looking at the raw data in the spreadsheet or in the database. We could start by designing some Tableau visualizations. We could start by just using Tableau and exploring a data set and discovering it that way. Or we could start at the other end of spectrum with the students, and we could look at developing skills in analysing, interpreting, and reasoning with data, and even identifying our assumptions and limitations. So what we actually did was we did start with the data collection point, and if you can see that picture of the hive on the screen, there are actually 4 collection points within the entrance to the hive here. So there were two right at the front and 2 right at the back. And we thought the best way to engage the students in the data was actually to set up a little role play. So we gave the students some roles to perform this data collection. Now they could either be an antenna, they could be a bee, or they could be a data recorder. So what they had to do, we set up a section of the room to mimic the layout of the data collection used in the hives. And when a student bee passed a student antenna, the student antenna had to raise their hand to indicate that he or she had detected the bee going past. So we gave them that idea that this is actually, that's when that point in time data is recorded. And what worked really well with this approach is the other students who were to record the data, they're the data recorders. We didn't give them any instructions on how to go about this. They simply had the name of their student B, and they had to record each time that they set off an antenna. Now, as you can imagine, with just a piece of paper and trying to record this, it ended up being really disorganized with their record taking. But what that did was it paved the way for us to then introduce the Excel data to them and explain that transactional row format of our record keeping. So rather than that, just give them that very confronting view of the data to start with and try and explain that each row represents a record of when a bee passed a sensor point. They then get a bit more familiar and say, yeah, okay, all right, I can now connect that with what I was trying to do and record it on a piece of paper, and I can understand that this now makes more sense, that every time a bee passes a sensor, it is now a row of data. And thinking about how can we apply that if we're teaching Tableau in the workplace, it could be as simple as talking about where that data came to be in our database to start with. And depending on what that data is, it could be, anything like a sensor, like in this instance, gathering data, or it could be, a customer service person taking some data over the counter. And a lot of data is collected online through the web, obviously, these days. And then we introduce them to the Excel data, and we can also do some data visualization in Excel as well, which sort of paves the way for us to then progress to Tableau. So here we just did some conditional formatting where you can see we applied a color to the different antenna IDs, with antenna 3 and 4 representing out of the hive for a bee, and antenna 1 and 2 representing in. And that sort of paved the way then for us to move on to Tableau. And I think the students then appreciated how useful Tableau is as a tool to be able to visually represent data when they see how sort of difficult it is to do with Excel and how easy it is to do with Tableau. One of the other things that we learned was along the way with students, and we did trial this with a number of students. Unfortunately, the program's sort of in a hold at the moment, just until we get the students back into the tech schools. What we did notice is that they really benefited from having a lot of explore time. So that is, we did a quick tutorial first by showing, sort of a copy me type thing. If we drag this to the rows and this to the columns, but we gave them a lot of exploration time and allowed them to use the show me tab. And that's a really powerful way, I think, to learn Tableau. If you firstly just set up a basic, say, bar chart and then show everybody how to use the show me tab, it certainly gives the students then something to go on with it. They can actually play themselves and not have to watch somebody continually demonstrate every step of the process. And the other area I think within Tableau, which is really useful for setting a training group free on, is the marks card. And for students, that the colors and the size and the shapes are certainly, you know, really powerful to be able to allow them to explore. And then we did jump into some pre-built dashboards that we, you know, that were probably outside the scope of, or certainly were outside the scope of the students being able to develop in a single session. Our focus then went on for them to be able to interpret the data, and we were promoting the critical thinking as well with that. So not just analysing and saying, yeah, this bar is bigger than the other, but what does it mean in actually in terms of the bee behaviour? And I do have some dashboards just to quickly demonstrate if I can switch the screen over to them. And this is one of the ones that we used, and it was called A Day in the Life. And you might notice that we named the bees, and that was really important for the students as well, rather than for them to see a unique ID, but to actually identify with the bees. So we gave them cute names, and they could then see each of the bees, and sometimes they took ownership over a bee too. And I think we had some drama actually with one of the local bees at one stage, because the last movement of that bee for the day was outside the hive, and the students looked ahead to see when that bee came back, and ultimately it didn't. So we concluded, given there wasn't another hive in the vicinity, that unfortunately that bee had met its fate. So, for instance, to look at the bee Christie here, you know, you can see a lot of activity here happening. So for the students, it's about not only saying that this bee was very active in this point, going in and out of the hive, but it's also for them to try and think about in terms of their other understanding of bees and how they work, as to what that bee its role might have actually been in the hive at that time. If you've never learnt about honeybees, I encourage you to. They're really fantastic creatures to learn about how complex their roles are. Last one I'd like to show you with this project is also we connected the data, the bee hive data going in and out of the hive, also with some weather conditions at the time, just from the Bureau of Meteorology. And we had the students try and see if there was any sort of correlation between the temperature for a given day, the maximum temperature, and the bee activity. And over a short span here, we can see that there was a relationship here. But we were very careful that the students didn't jump too quickly to form conclusions based on this data too, and try and get them to understand that this is a very limited data set with only a few bees, and that while we can see a relationship in the data between the temperature and the number of bee activity for a day, you know, we can't really form that conclusion until we get much more data to see. Okay, just see if we can go back to the slides. Yeah. So in summary, I think there's absolutely potential for school students to be learning data analytics and in particular data visualization tools within schools. But the next, and this is where the STEM schools can really play a big part in that, because they can focus on those specialist type schools that is very difficult to embed, skills that is very difficult to embed within schools. The next challenge will be equipping our teachers with the knowledge and support to be able to deliver that as part of their curriculum. And that's a really, really big challenge, considering how busy our teachers are in schools and how limited their time is to be able to learn, you know, these new technologies. And just to finish off with today, what I wanted to talk about were 3 things I love about Tableau. I narrowed it down to 3 because I think we're just about out of time and ready to move on to the next speaker. So what I'm going to show you is a quick example if you haven't seen these already, and you may well be already familiar with these things that Tableau can do. But I want to look at density plots, animations, and shapes just really quickly. If you haven't seen density charts yet, I really recommend you have a play with these. They were a feature that was brought out now, they're probably a couple of years old now, 2018, I think they came out. But this is a really useful option in the marks card to really see where, you know, sort of that hot activity is happening. This is sort of a more, I know we've focused a little bit earlier on morbid sort of data sets. This is one too that I did for a client. It was an open data set. We're looking at accidents in the US based on truck trailers becoming disconnected from their trucks, and looking to see if there was any sort of concentration on any area. And that's where density plots can really make data jump out at you very, very quickly by giving you that sort of heat map effect. So that's one that I really love. A second one, if you haven't had a go at animations yet, this is something that's relatively new. This is another one that was of an open data source that I've used. And you'll notice now with animations, if you hover over, you know, here I've got a map of Australia, and you'll notice that the bar chart can change, and it just gives it that, dare I use the word, sexy sort of look to it. And that's something that Tableau's just brought in this year that I think makes it really, really stand out and more fun to sort of interact with. If you have certain marks moving from one position to another, particularly if you're analysing something over time, it can tell a story too and help you sort of understand that data a little bit more. In this example, it's more for sort of just a visual impact, I think. And finally, Paul did mention I do some work with race analytics. So these are for sporting events, of timed events that where they want to visualize their results. So if, for instance, running races such as marathons, Paul, I think you mentioned that you're actually in a marathon. I've had a go at one before. I don't look too good at the end usually. But here's a way of, instead of just looking at tables of results at the end of the race, to be actually able to visualize the finish, to be able to see the distributions of runners. And this is simply, instead of using dots or squares or the built-in or those sort of default icons for marks, you know, we can import our own shapes into Tableau. So here I've been able to import some running icons, and then you can interact with those to see who that competitor was. So that's pretty much what Race Explorer is about, is providing that deeper sort of analysis, just using some really cool Tableau features and some basic features really in Tableau shapes. Paul, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and head back to you.
Yep, fantastic.
Actually, I had one more slide, which I should do, and that's if anybody wants to connect. Now, I haven't been checking the Q&A. I don't know if anything's popped up there.
There's one question, Grant, which we should certainly ask is, and people are saying great presentation, but thanks. One question was, it looked like the B data in particular looked like a very fun data set, and there was a question as to whether or not it was publicly available.
It's not publicly available, unfortunately, no. So the CSIRO must, they're probably governed by, with their research, having to keep that one in tow. No, you know, it's certainly not the B data that we use on the Ballarat Hive is obviously not sensitive data, but yeah, we would probably need to get their permission before we were able to publish that further. I should have mentioned there too that project is expanding. The Ballarat Tech School, we started with that, and the Geelong Tech School now is running with that as well. So hopefully we end up with a number of the tech schools using that data right across the state to be able to engage students, and a lot of them are looking to use Tableau as well. So hopefully we can get Tableau into secondary school even more. Yeah,
very cool. Very cool. Yeah, no, that's great. Well, thank you very much, Grant. I really appreciate it.
Excellent. Now, if anyone wants to drop me an email, that's my email there, and I'm on LinkedIn. So yeah, don't be shy. Drop me a line, and yep, love to talk data. Thanks, Paul, for the opportunity.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thanks very much. Really appreciate it. And thanks, Grant. So we're going to move on to our next two speakers now, which is Larisa and Mohammed. So Larisa, if you want to now start try and share, I'll stop my screen sharing, and you can take over and go from there. So I'm going to pass over to Larisa.
Thanks, Paul.
Should be all yours now. There we go. Yes. Yep, it's coming up. Yep, right. Perfect.
Thank you very much to everyone for coming today, and thank you for the opportunity to showcase some of the work that our team has done over the last year. So today is about showing how we've moved from Excel pivot tables and charts and pretty much multiple manual work into a dashboard that actually is providing huge value to the organisation in a very, very visual form. So in the old world, as I call it, we used to have a report that was 13 pages long. We used to have fortnightly updates via various forms of reporting. We had weekly updates. Everything was done through email distribution, numerous files. We had Cognos reports that we were heavily relying on. So the challenge for me was to figure out what can we do with this and how can we change this and how can we make this better? How can we move people from Excel and from the world of trying to search for the data in a, I guess, older fashion, and move them into a way where they can go and visually just see what's happening with student admissions, and then be able to make quick decisions based on what they see. So what we ended up doing is we created something that we call the perfect utopia on what we wanted to have. So we have a dashboard that I'm going to demonstrate today, which allows people at a different level of management, from executive level to all the way down to the staff analyst level, to actually go into the data and see what's happening with admissions, and then see how that they could apply that in their job. So what we ended up doing is creating a big dashboard that allows people to compare admissions in the current trimester, previous trimester, and the upcoming trimester. And then every week we would actually have another dashboard sitting on top of that that provides a summary of that and gives people a bit of an insight into what's happening for the week. And then they have a link where they go and click, and pretty much they can go and drill down into the details. So I'm going to flick over to that dashboard, and what you're going to see now is a development work that took initially 3 months to put out. And then I guess after logging into the dashboard and playing with it and talking to stakeholders and trying to get a feedback, it developed and evolved into a form that you're going to see today. I'd just like to emphasize to everyone that the data that you're seeing today is the dummy data. We masked we mask pretty much everything. Yeah, so that's why you may not be able to, I guess, say, that's India, that's China, or those are the markets that we're working with. So instead, you're going to see market 1, market 2, market 3, and that's what we've done with all of the data in the table. So I'm just going to flick across to the dashboard. So what we've done is we created a dashboard that does 2 things. One is create insights for the executives, and 2 is to allow the analysts and people who need to work with data at a lower level of detail to actually also have that option to go and drill down into different parts of data that they're looking for. So we call that insights driven and analytic and drill down reports part of the dashboard. So if I go into it right now, we've got the main page at the front. I'm just hoping this will, yep, thank you. It's going to wait for a second. What we are doing is we're giving people the option to have a look at current, next, or prior trimester, to choose the campus that is in there. So please just remember that it's dummy data, so we'll see a bit funny stuff inside right now. And then also choose the level of study that students are doing. We're summarizing on the left-hand side the actual funnel, how many applications have come through, by how much is that lower than the same time last year in terms of nominal numbers and percentages, and then how many offers have we generated, how's that different from same time last year, and then how many acceptances have we actually had and how's that different as well. We also then have for each faculty and the overall university, the targets that they're trying to achieve and the number of acceptances that they've achieved. And then we've got the target achieved percentage in there that just gives them a bit of a visibility as to how they're progressing. We also have these conversion rates that tells them, the rate of conversion between an application actually becoming an offer, and then what's the conversion rates of offer becoming an acceptance. We got the conversion rate and also have an indication if that's up or down since same time last year. Anything in green indicates positive growth, and anything in purple indicates decline since last year. What we then have is we work with markets and nationalities. Markets are more like a physical location or where the student is coming from. Nationality is more like your passport holder. So for example, if you got a market like Australia, within that market, you will then have different nationalities. Or you have a market like India. Within India, you will have maybe nationalities from Bangladesh or Sri Lanka. So people pretty much come from the Indian physical market, but they got different passports. So people are, depending on what their nature of work is, are interested in one or the other. What we then have is on top of the dashboard, we give a top level overview saying how many tertiary institutions are actually participating in the intake for that trimester and how is that different from same time last year. Then we have how many markets are participating in recruitment and how is that different as well. And then we have how many courses are we offering now versus what we offered in previous year. We then have a look in weekly change in applications. If you see a negative number, it just means that for that week, we had a lot of withdrawals happening and that scale was much higher than the number of applications coming through. So we are showing how many weeks prior to the trimester start, and then 2 weeks into the trimester, what's the actual trend of the time. So there's a trend in applications, offers, and acceptances. What we then have the ability to do is we can actually go then and click on each market. And when we click on that market, these graphs will then update to reflect that market's position. We then also give people the option to have a look at the cumulative summary as well. How are we going overall since the particular number of weeks that we have started from up until right now, and then how's that different from the same time last year. What we have at the top as well, we're actually indicating what trimester we're reporting for, what week in the trimester we're currently in, and people then have an option to see when was this last updated. So for example, T2 happened a long time ago, and the latest snapshot date will then stay as at that particular time point when we did that last update for that. What we then have following that is the ability for people to drill down into each market and see each market's performance. So looking at the top markets in terms of how many applications we had now versus last year and how's that different, is it going up or down? We use a different color coding, so the growth will be obviously in green and the decline will be in purple color. So looking at applications, offers, acceptances, and what's the conversion rate for each market. What we have given people an option to do is choose the different faculties that they're looking at, but they also have an option to sort the data by different volumes. Do they want to see, for example, only change in offers, change in acceptances, application volumes, and do they want to see it in ascending or descending market? Once again, they also have an option to see the difference between the markets and nationalities, depending on what the nature of their work is. What we also have provided people with is the summary, the details on the right-hand side, which allows to see, for example, what are the top 3 agents, top 3 courses, or top 3 previous institutions that are pretty much the best that we got at the moment, and then what are the ones that are not performing really well. If we click on a recruitment market, for example, then that will tell us for that particular recruitment market. It will then refresh the part on the right hand side, in which then it's going to say from that recruitment market, these agents are the best performing ones, these are the worst performing ones. And then these are the courses, and then these are the tertiary institutions. I didn't mention it's top 3, bottom 3, but if that particular institution or course or an agent doesn't belong into the top 3, then you will just see the top 1 in there. Once again, on top, we've got a major summary that talks about the number of prior institutions with increased number of applications. We've got number of agents with improved offer to acceptance conversion rate. So it gives you a bit of a highlight in terms of how we're improving. We then have a similar summary for faculty. So I'll skip that one because it's similar in nature. The bits that I've got in here now, which Mohammed actually the person who's developed all of this has worked on. Is Mohammed, would you like to take over this one, or would you like me just to continue with the page?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
So what we have here is, this is the analyst specific page. So on this page, you have an option to actually go and see what's happening with courses. So I'll just go back. Once again, have a selection of which trimester. Is there a particular course that you want to look at? Is it a particular faculty, level of study, campus? Do we want to sort by application volumes, or any other measures that we've got in there? And then the best feature for all of this is the drill down tool, and I'll show you right now how that works. So we've got a course and we want to know how that course is doing and what's actually contributing to the volumes of that course. So for example, this course here has got 16% of overall market share for overall courses. This is how many applications have come through. This is how it's different from same time last year. This is how many offers we've issued. This is how that's different from last year. And this is how many acceptances we got, and this is how that's different as well. But we also have a course target in there included, so that we know if we've achieved the course target or not. So the best feature that I've mentioned in there is this feature here. So if you click on a course, for example, and you click on a recruitment market, what this is going to do is it's actually going to drill into that course, and it will tell you that this course comprises of all of these markets. So the students from these markets are actually choosing to study that course. We then have an option to switch to something else and see, for example, which agents that we're working with are sending the students in. So we can then go and have a look at what the list of those agents as well, and how they are performing during this trimester. We also have an option to have a look at which institutions from different markets are contributing to the course. So overall, this is the analytics, I guess, analysis-based page where if you really want to know a deep level of detail, this is the one to go to. So we've done this for courses. We've done a similar thing for markets. For example, if you want to have a look at a particular recruitment market, you may want to see, you know, what courses are students from that market enrolling into. So you click on a course, and that will then display in descending order all the courses that the students are enrolling from that market, and then that helps you with future planning and marketing and everything else that needs to be done, and the strategy overall. We've got a similar thing as well. We want to know, for example, for that particular market, say for example it's India, which prior institutions from India are contributing to that student load, and then how they're growing over time. And then, for example, our country managers can go and have a look to say, you know, if they need to do something with a particular institution, if they see a significant decline, and similar thing with agents as well. If we want to have a look at that as well, that will give us the agent breakdown. And then everything that we've done in here is pretty much a variation of the courses drill down report that you had a look. So for example, if you want to click on an agent, you want to see what institutions are those agents working with. So that will come up as well. Also what nationalities associated with agents, what courses are they sending students to, so on and so forth. And then we got a similar one for prior institution breakdown, you know, which agents are working with them, which courses, so on and so forth. So this is the big dashboard that we put together, which has made a significant difference in the way we are operating from a decision point of view. So we've completely eliminated the manual sending of files via Excel. We had a really amazing person who's working in the domestic division of the university, who's actually helped us utilize his server so we can publish the Tableau dashboard and pretty much make it really useful and accessible to everyone. The dashboard itself has had a huge success, most of all for the quick decision making that needs to be made prior to meetings, I guess at the executive level. The country managers that work with different markets, they're finding it very useful because they don't have to go and do the data on their own. You know, from a marketing point of view as well, you know, which are popular courses, which ones are not, which ones should you invest more funds in and focus on, and so on and so forth. Now, while we were working on this, as I said, I believe I've logged in probably 1,400 times minimum into the dashboard just to look like for different opportunities. But the actual design of the dashboard has been done as a combination of the insights we received from the stakeholders to see what is it that they're struggling with, what is it that they, you know, do on a daily basis to identify the most frequent activities they take on board. And then Mohammed, would you like to just give us a description of your journey as a developer in putting this from the actual raw data and the dashboard and all emails that we had into putting into this shape and form that we see today?
Yeah, thank you, Larisa. Today, I mostly want to talk, yes, as Larisa mentioned, about the journey in putting this together. I would like to say that this dashboard is, like, I enjoyed building this dashboard the most of everything I've ever worked on. And that is because of the number of stakeholders we have, the number of users, and that eventually we reached a stage where we had one data source, one single source of truth that is automated and that answers the questions of many, many stakeholders. And we witnessed as we built this, so our vision was that we wanted our users to stop using the reports and move towards a more insights-driven approach. So essentially, day one, when we started working on this, we went through the discovery sessions and the interviews with our stakeholders, and everyone said one thing: we want the data so that we can do our own analysis. So Larisa was really pushing this and asking the stakeholders why do you need the data? So we collected the list of all the questions that we would like the data to answer. And this kind of approach is something I've adopted going forward with other dashboards, where we, as a change management practice, where we provide the users both the drill down reports and insights both at the same in the same place. And we've monitored actually how the users interacted with the dashboard. So at the beginning, they were actually going to the reports that had the data, as Larisa showed, and then slowly we saw our users actually going to the insights dashboard more often. And everywhere I've worked, the first question is, how do you make our users draw insights from the data instead of downloading the data and doing their own analysis in Excel? And so the way it worked is we collected all the questions, and over 3 months, we started evolving this dashboard in a way that literally no one had any other question left unanswered. So for example, Larisa, if you go to the markets and nationalities dashboard, I think this dashboard is the most powerful of the lot. So although our stakeholders would argue that the spreadsheet format was also powerful, but here it might look like it's, 4 charts, but really the parameters and the filters on top are really what make it special, because Larisa, if you click on select top by, so literally you are answering those questions because you can select the top by application, volume, offers and acceptances, and then the changes in acceptances applications, offers, and acceptances, and then you could choose descending or ascending. So what is this really doing? This is literally saying, I want the top courses that have improved, or I want the bottom courses that have regressed. So whenever anyone has any question regarding courses that have improved, they want to know why, then we simply go to show me change in offers in descending, and I'm going to get the top 15 markets that have improved, right? And then the natural question that would come after that is, why did recruitment market 96 improve that much? So literally, I will just click on recruitment market 96. And it will put everything in context, right? So it will show me which agents have funneled the most students towards this market. Sorry, can you guys still hear me?
Yes, and I think
Okay,
we're running out of time as well.
Yeah, I'll make it fast. So we call this contextual insights. You click on a market, you understand which factors were contributing towards the improvement in this course. Or if the opposite is happening and the course is not doing well, or a market is not doing well, you literally go, I want to understand why a course or a market is not doing well. You click on it and you see the factors contributing to that. I guess this is my 2 cents here. I just wanted to talk about my journey and why I like this dashboard, because it really shows us, it like literally went through all the challenges that you usually go through when building a dashboard that is going to be used by multiple stakeholders. We had the challenge of stakeholders that do not want to use dashboards, but rather they want to see reports. And then we saw adoption and change from reporting to actual insights.
Yeah, and I would agree that was probably the biggest challenge as well in itself, to move people from heavily relying on a report that comes via email and Excel and doing the drill of their own, and then trying to navigate towards something completely new. And they did well as well. Thank you, Mohammed. Thank you, Paul, and thank you everyone for your time and for listening to what we had today.
Yeah, fantastic. Look, just a couple of quick questions. I mean, I know I wasn't going to go through a lot of questions, but there's been a lot of interest in your presentation, and I just wanted to sort of echo a couple of things. The first thing I wanted to echo that most people are saying is this is a spectacular piece of work. Obviously, huge amount of effort in there and some terrific insights. I guess one of the common questions seems to be around performance. There seems to be a lot of data involved in this particular dashboard. What sort of challenges and solutions did you have to deal with when it came to performance?
So Mohammed did an excellent job. He actually, this is powered by Alteryx in the background. So when we need to update the dashboard updates within an hour. Yeah, Mohammed, do you have anything else to add?
Yep. So usually this process would take 1 week to report on everything international applications. It was reduced to 1 hour. Once the data source becomes a Tableau server data source, it's a matter of seconds. Doesn't really, like, the performance happens in the backend, but once it's a Tableau extract that's published on Tableau server, it's really lightning quick.
Yeah, it goes just quickly. Yeah.
Great. Well, thanks, Larisa and Mohammed. That was really extraordinarily impressive. There are a few other questions that you might just want to answer on the Q&A when you get a chance. There's just a couple of technical questions there and that sort of stuff. There was also one other person asked a more general question about how does Deakin and other unis sort of look like in a post-COVID world? But I suspect that's a much bigger conversation, so I won't burden you with that one. Yeah,
it's a much bigger conversation, and you know what's happening right now, what's happening with all businesses. So universities have been affected in a similar way. So it's something that yeah, it's be affected.
Yeah, indeed. Well, great. Well, thanks again, Larisa and Mohammed. Really appreciate it. Very exciting stuff. I'm sure we could probably fill an entire user group session just with your dashboard alone. It was very spectacular. But thanks again for that.
Thank you
but I
very
want to
much.
move on. I want to move on to our next speaker now, which is Satyam. So Satyam, Satyam's going to actually share some insights around building Tableau dashboards for mobile, which I think is going to be really interesting because obviously it's a form factor that's increasingly becoming important to people. So Satyam, yeah, if you want to start sharing your screen and go for it. Yep, we can see your PowerPoint presentation there. Fantastic. I'll pass over to you. You might need to come off mute.
Sorry, Paul, am I audible now?
Yep. All good.
Cool. Thanks, Paul, for the amazing introduction in the starting, and thanks for this opportunity. Amazing stuff, Grant, and that was really good. I think it was a pretty good learning experience over there just to see how Tableau can be used in multiple ways. So I want to start with my topic, which is Tableau for mobile. And so I want to spend like next 10 to 15 minutes just sharing my journey on gathering some information on how we can build the mobile dashboards for phones. And I'll do a small demo if the time persists, and a bit of use case study that I'm currently working on in Transurban. So a quick stats, just to highlight the fact like how popular mobiles are getting now. So in 2013, the traffic from the worldwide web traffic from mobile, they accounted for 16%, and this number skyrocketed to 53%, which really helps us to understand, how mobile phones are being used so extensively to access not only just normal information, but corporate information as well. And another survey in 2016 also suggested that corporate employees, they're using at least one mobile application. And to the surprise, 30% of the respondents among this percentage feels like, there can be a lot of improvement on the business processes as well. So I think it's really important to understand, like, having a mobile dashboard is really important for the audience. And when we talk about the audience, it's very important to understand like who are the target people over here. So it can be either like a sales executive person who wants to quickly access information while he's in a meeting, or for us in Transurban, some use case studies that I'm working on is building mobile application for maintenance teams while they are on road or fixing sensors and they want to look at the status after the replacement. So there are like a lot of advantages that are coming up for mobile dashboards. So a bit of history around like what Tableau Mobile is. So Tableau Mobile came into existence in 2015, and there was complete overhaul in 2019. Yeah, I remember. I think so. Yeah, 2019, when a complete new version of app was launched along with few other features. And one of the features that I love is the auto-generate phone layouts, which I'm going to touch in further presentation. So before I start sharing my views on the automatic dashboard phone layout, I want to give a bit of history as well around this topic. So I think it was 2010.1 when Tableau launched this feature called Device Designer, which allows like authors and users to create dashboards for different device layouts. But the problem with that was it was consuming a lot of time for the people to develop, especially mobile applications. So I think Tableau, they came up with a solution which creates like a good starting point for people to create their mobile applications. Now, what happens is when you develop the content using this automatic design layout feature, it arranges the contents in some algorithm, making sure of what kind of device layout the user is accessing the dashboard from. So now I want to stress again on the fact that it's a good starting point, and I want to highlight the fact with the help of few images that I have on this slide. So on the left, you can see a Superstore dashboard. Sorry, a dashboard built on the Superstore sales data. Pretty good dashboard, quite informative. So when you go on the left, on the right, so you see a tablet version. Seems pretty good. It seems like a lot of information is squeezed in. We can modify a few things like putting legends and filters here and there, but it does the job. But when it comes to the phone application, it doesn't seem that good. Only thing I can see is a miniature version of a map and few filters overlapping on each other, and the area graphs at the bottom completely squeezed in. So that's why a bit of work has to be done, but it gives you a good layout on how we can, a good starting point on how we can start developing further on. So a bit of technical information that really helped me understand while I was working on few mobile applications in Transurban. So even though you see that there are 3 layouts, which are desktop, tablet, and phone, but technically they are just annotations of one dashboard, which is called the default dashboard. And the default dashboard is nothing but it's just like the dashboard that you create when you click on the dashboard icon at the bottom of your Tableau desktop. Now, the thing about the default dashboard is you create all your content. So you drag your sheets, you format, you border it up, you delete your sheets on a default dashboard. So it acts as a parent over here. So what happens? Default dashboard acting as a parent, and all other desktop, tablet, and phone acting as a child layouts. So they inherit the content from the default dashboard, and then that content is automatically populated and put together in keeping in mind the device layout. But it also gives a lot of flexibility to customize on individual layout. So I'll probably do a quick demo after a few slides, but which will really help to understand in a better way. So what are the advantages of default dashboard? So I have already said that you can resize, you can change your sheets, and you can delete sheets as on the default dashboard. But what happens is that once you do that, all the changes are propagated across all the child layers. Like if you delete a sheet, the sheet will be deleted from all the below layouts as well. So when I talk about the customization, I think that this was really important feature when it comes to customizing depending upon the right stakeholders. So what happens is, like when you click on the customize button on your phone layout, it actually snips out the connection between your default dashboard and your phone layout. So once you have done that, you can either remove your worksheets, you can format the borders, you can add more filters, you can change the colors. But let's say if you have to add new sheets to your phone layout, that particular sheet needs to be there in your default dashboard. So that is like a very something that was informative when I was going through, when I was developing these phone dashboards. So next one, like, why do we need the mobile dashboards? Why not just have the normal dashboards and open them through Tableau Mobile or access the server through our phone? So a few things that I witnessed in my journey is, like, your fingers are larger than your cursor. So let's say you have a date filter, and the date filter is put in a calendar format. So clicking on a particular date might be a little tough, but with the cursor, it will be pretty easy. But when you are doing with the finger, it might create nuisance in terms of you might click like an adjacent date or the top date, something like that. The tooltips, you actually lose the effects of the tooltip when you have the mobile dashboards. On the desktop, I think the tooltips are such an amazing feature. I personally use a lot while building dashboards. But when you are using tooltips on your mobile dashboards, because tooltips are basically accessed using hovering. So, but with the phone, the touch screens, they don't understand like whether you're hovering or whether you're clicking on the screen. So tooltip doesn't add that much value. Next one is scrolling sheets versus scrolling application. So I think that this was something new for me as well. So let's say you have a bar graph sheet on your dashboard, on a mobile dashboard. So when you're scrolling to your mobile dashboard and you come to the point where you reach that sheet which has a feature of scrolling down, so the mobile dashboard cannot understand whether you're scrolling your the application, or you're scrolling the sheet. So it generally wastes a lot of time to like switch around or to get a solution around this thing. And and I think the maps was again important feature in the desktop, but it doesn't serve great functionality when you have on your mobile dashboards. For example, let's say you have a map on your sheet in the mobile dashboard. So when you're scrolling your application, so when you hit the sheet that has a map, you might end up either minimizing your or your map, or you might end up selecting a state which might act as a filter or create some more actions along the throughout the dashboard, which you basically don't want. And things that I learned through my journey is, first of all, it's very important that we understand the purpose of the dashboard. You need to ask a question like, who is my stakeholder, who is the audience for mobile applications? It might be for some executive who wants to just have a quick look on the status of few things, or it can be your executive who wants to get few numbers run during a meeting. And having the right standard when you're designing the custom design layouts. So I think so when I started building mobile applications, I opted for custom layouts. So I ended up having a lot of sheets, like some sheets for dashboard, and then some sheets for mobile and some sheets for tablet. So having right standards, like, one of the things that I learned during one of our training sessions was, like, for phone sheets, just put a prefix P, and for tablets T, and it really helps to differentiate the sheets on what is the purpose of sheet and why they were created. And again, like I touched upon, like the default dashboard. So your default dashboard can act as a scratch pad. Like I basically like to throw my stuff inside my default dashboard and build my custom mobile application layout. Or you can use the concept of containers, and then you can put all the sheets that you want to go in your custom design layout in phone in your container, and then you can show or hide things accordingly. Pretty cool feature, which I just learned recently, of show and hide. And test. I think that's really important. Like if your stakeholders have an iPhone 8 or he's using some other type of phone, it's better to get a similar kind of phone and test your dashboards on it rather than just go on building and deploying it. So probably I'll do a quick demo which really hydrates everything that I share now. Cool. So this one is like simple dashboard that's built on the top of the Superstore sales area, just showing the KPIs on the top, and you have the profit margins in the map, and those profit margins are distributed across categories and subcategories on your bar graph. And then you can look for any discrepancies through your line graph across different KPIs across different years. So now if I want to build a mobile application, the first step that I use is, first of all, use the feature of device designer. And what I do is, first of all, I create like a desktop version. So now what will happen is, let's say if you want to access the same dashboard on your desktop, it won't show you the default dashboard, but it will show you the desktop dashboard. So it gives me more flexibility of using my default dashboard as my scratchpad now. So now I'll go on to create my phone layout as well. So I use an iPhone 8, so I was testing things on this one. So I'll add a phone layout. Cool. So you can see over this is the mobile application that Tableau gave me, and definitely needs a lot of work. So I'll do a very small demo, and then I'll show you guys the final thing that I built today. So now I think I'll just take a step back and understand like who is the audience of this dashboard. So for me, I built this dashboard for a sales executive. For him, having KPIs numbers on the top is really important. So definitely I need to work on this one. And then we have the maps. Definitely maps is not adding any value, because in the dashboard I wanted to show profit margins across different states. But with the mobile dashboard, I don't think my user would want to get information of all the states. Something like top 5 states in terms of profitability, and bottom 5 least profitable states as well. So definitely I like to have that kind of information over there. Then I have again the same problem, having a bar graph which has the scrolling option. Definitely needs to go out of the mobile layout. And then we have the monthly, the monthly trending across different years. Now, like when I started building the mobile layouts, I was very clear that I don't want my user to do a very in-depth analysis about the things. The user should get just an off information, like main information, not like in-depth. And for in-depth information, we have the desktop dashboard. So definitely I like to remove all those line trends and these bar graphs, but it depends upon user to user. You may want to add it, you may not. So it's totally up to you. So now I can, what I'll do is now I need to add, so I'll do a quick demo on the KPI dashboard. So I can see this is not the optimal way that I want to see these numbers. So what, like in the mobile application, I love to have my numbers in a vertical format. So what I'll do is I'll reinvent particular sheet, change it to a columnar format and bring it over here. So now what I'll do is I've already created like a new KPI sheet, which is in a more columnar format. Is less granular. I have wrapped up the numbers in terms of units. And so what I'll do is I'll go on my default dashboard and I'll keep it to floating. So this is my scratchpad. So I'll be just throwing stuff over here. So what I'll do is I'll go and just bring my KPI sheet over here. That's fine, that's done. So now my next step will be to go back on my phone and change it to tile, and I can see my KPI, new KPI sheet with the P prefix coming over the custom design layout. So what I love to do is I'll go over here, I'll put my sheet over here and just a bit of formatting, change it to entire view, increase the size a little bit and delete this thing. Looks better. It looks better, like for anybody accessing the mobile application. It looks much better than what I had earlier. So another thing I might want to do is I might want to change this one to 14. Looks better. Might increase the width height as well for this one. And then I'll move this filter on the top and make this as my global filter. So this was basic, a very quick demo around like how we can customize sheet. You can go on removing sheets over here and putting your new sheets, that's fine. And again, the same process with dropping your new sheets on your default and then bringing it over here. So I've already worked on a final product. So this is how my mobile application looks like now. So on the top, I have a global filter. I have like my KPIs. Then instead of having a map, I have the top 5 profitable states and the bottom 5 unprofitable states. So which gives like, and I removed all the headers and it has the label. So I don't need the headers anymore. I can see my numbers and then I can see my profit margins by category. That's it. Very high top level view. And for any further investigation, a user can definitely go back into a default dashboard. So that was like a basic concept using. So I'll probably switch back to my. So yeah. So I want to do a quick demo, like a use case study that I'm currently working on in Transurban. So Transurban is mainly into maintaining and operating roads. But one of the critical mission for us is to making sure road traveler safety. And for that, we have a lot of IoT devices on the road, which is constantly monitoring and detecting. So all those devices, they are connected to a one central hub, which we call as an OMCS, which is an operational and management control system. But the thing with this particular system is that you have a lot of logins that you have to do for each system. And every morning, an operational engineer, he comes in and he checks the status of each and every system, writes it down somewhere and uploads it on our system. Took a lot of time because it's more than 10 different logins a person has to do, consumed a lot of time. So a solution was required that we build a Tableau dashboard, which could be connected to the database and the information could be populated and refreshed at a particular period of time. It seems simple over here, but it was a lot of work went behind this. We had some scripts running on our on this OMCS database, and then we made use of AWS Redshift and Lambda and got the data into Redshift and hooked up that dashboard to that system. Very brief overview of what I just explained on the process of getting the data out of the database and putting into Redshift and then connecting with the Tableau. Now this is very, very detailed. I just don't want to zoom in because the information is pretty sensitive. So it was a dashboard that really saved almost 50% of the time of the manual engagement that people were engaged in. So now, yeah, pretty good stuff. People don't need to log in anymore. They need to log in only if there are particular issues. But again, people came up with a new problem out of this. For it will be so good if we have something on the phone and we can access all the information on our mobile while we're sitting at home or while we're traveling. So that's when I started learning a little bit about Tableau Mobile and started working on it. And one of the products that I created recently was like a health check dashboard, which is pretty works on the same functionality, populates information around 8 a.m. in the morning and shows you the major trends and highlights if there are any major faults, so the person can go and investigate, or if he needs to call somebody like an maintenance team that, hey, there's some problem, please go and fix it. So it can be done. So person doesn't need to log in into the system and look at the dashboard and then log in back. So that was for me. Happy to take any questions. And I think so at the end, just want to give a special shout out to like few people in Michael Spence, who has been really supporting and mentoring and coaching me to build cool applications on Tableau. So can't thank him enough. And I think so pretty much done. Paul, if I have any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Yeah, thanks, Satyam. Look, there are a couple of questions on there. They're fairly technical ones, so I might let you get specifically to the technical questions. But I think most people are sort of saying that you definitely provided some really good insights for them and that sort of stuff. There's a couple of questions about refreshing and maybe some other alternative layouts. So I might let you get back to the question and answers, because there's a couple of questions in there that I think are worthwhile answering. Don't forget, everybody, I want to reinforce the fact that if you don't get something answered immediately during these sessions, as Satyam mentioned, by all means, reach out to the speakers via LinkedIn, and you can always ask another question there. I'm sure everybody will be very happy to help with questions. But for now, Satyam, I really appreciate it. I might move on to our last speakers. Thanks very much again. Yeah. So now our last speakers, again, thanks for hanging in there, guys, and thanks for hanging in there, all the crowd that's online. I know we've still got a very good crowd still with us. But I'm now going to pass over to Roger and Sharanu, who's going to they're going to talk a little bit more about some of the latest features that are in Tableau 2020.3, I think they're going to be looking at. So on the server side and the desktop side. So I'll pass it over to you, Roger, if you want to take it away. I'll stop sharing and you can take it from there.
Excellent.
Perfect.
Thank you.
You've got the ball. Yep.
Yeah, so very happy, and it's very nice to meet everybody virtually. Looking forward to doing it in person at some point. Today, myself and Sharanu will be walking through 2020.2 and 2020.3 new releases, new release features and capabilities, and both across the desktop and the server. I'll be doing the desktop. And, I guess I just wanted to put this up here and just give everybody some visibility into what drives all our new features and capabilities. And really it's centered around what drives our vision, which is, really unleashing, human ingenuity, creativity, intellect, and, how are we doing that through, providing a tool set that anybody can use across your enterprise to understand and see data and really transform your organization. Ultimately, the what is bringing everybody together in a beautiful symbiosis. I like that word. So I just wanted to highlight, what is driving our features. And in this case, one of the biggest release features we had in 2020.2 was the object model or relationships. So traditionally, all we had was the physical layer in our data model, which consisted of the tables that you brought into Tableau and joins, unions, and custom SQL. That drove it, and that's what the VizQL model queried. Now we've added a very rich relationship capability or object model where we can view relationships between tables and objects. And at the end of the day, what this drives is easier analysis and more accurate analysis. And I'll show you what I mean. So we have a data set here, and I've just got the population of London up here. And if I go through a join process, and we'll just look at some of the challenges that joins provide. And I've got my London population information. I'm going to add a crime indicator, and it's going to just automatically create a join. Now, what this actually does underneath the covers, it's basically embedding population data into every crime record. And what this does by default is enhances or adds to the population figure. So if I go back to my London population, we have a much more vast increased population size, which is inaccurate. And if we want more detail, we have to basically create level of detail calculations and or look at how we've done the join and manipulate it at that level. Okay, so let me show you what happens when we use relationships. So I'm just going to remove the crimes component there and add it as a relationship. Now, what I'm doing here is you can see there's a little line connected to the London population. We call this the noodle. Noodle connects the two. Once I release it, it automatically creates a primary key, and you can select those as well and add more primary keys if you like, but we have a default primary key and we've established a relationship between the two. Now, when I go to my dashboard and drop in the population, it's accurate. So, what this is doing is a context-sensitive based query. It's only bringing up in the view what you're querying, not looking at the entire data set. So, that's one of the key powers, okay? And hopefully that makes sense. And what we can also do is create more complex relationships with multiple entities and objects, basically replicating, star schemas or snowflake schemas, or however you want to represent your data, we can do that, and you get the benefit within your visualization. Another example I wanted to show was two exact same visualizations where we have pre-aggregated data on one side, and we have a viz designed with the data model behind it. And it's measuring crime per price of house within London, okay? And if we look at the detail behind this, the pre-aggregated data, the actual summary data and full data is the same. It's all aggregated up. There's no level of detail aggregation. So if we want to get that level of detail, we got to go back to the data source. We have to do level of detail calculations. And whereas in the data modeling example, if I select on the same data point, yes, we have the aggregated view, but we also have all the raw data around the relationships that we've established within the data source. So we have all the raw data for crimes and house sales and London population. Now, what this facilitates is really that contextual query that I was talking about. So I can go ahead and drill into different elements automatically and see the results of that. Now, the power is, yes, the context is only through the query that we're executing within the visualization. But the other powerful thing here, which is, basically powers Tableau, is the ability to ask questions. And in this case, unanticipated questions, because all the data set is within the object model. Users can really go in any direction they want with the data because it's all underpinning your visualizations. And that's all without doing any manipulation on the data source and the joins. So effectively making analysis easier and more accurate is the key takeaways. The next feature that I wanted to talk about was predictive analytics. So up to this point, this is in 2020.3. We had, prior to this, we had the ability to do trend lines. And if we wanted to do a predictive model, typically we had to feed it into another application like R or Python, and then produce the results back within Tableau. Okay, there is some forecasting, and but what we really wanted to do is to be able to offer a way to model predictions. And in this case, this example here, we've got health expenditure per capita, and we're predicting the average life expectancy of females. So if I click on a data point, this whole visualization is designed through a prediction model. So we've taken all the data within our data source or visualization, fed it into this model, and come up with a 69-year average female life expectancy for guana. Okay, now how did we do that? We've added 2 model calculations, one of those being predicted life expectancy. And we can see here what we're predicting is life expectancy for females. And then we have our variables that are going to contribute to that prediction model. In this case, we just have one, health expenditure and capital, but we can add significant other variables to contribute to that prediction. So that's the first model percentile, comes up with a calculation based on those factors. What is the average life expectancy? Then we also have a confidence level interval that we can calculate into the mix. And if I just click on to this particular calculation, it's called model quantile, and basically gives us a confidence interval, in this case, of 90%, okay? And if I click on within any data point, at the bottom of this tooltip, we can see the threshold. So the average female life expectancy is 70. We would expect it to fall anywhere between 65 and 81 as a confidence level. So a super powerful tool for augmenting your predictive capabilities within Tableau. And by the way, it's using explain data, the AI engine within Tableau, to process and come up with these predictive elements. The last piece that I wanted to show on the desktop was Prep Builder. And in this case, we've now introduced the ability to write back to the database source. You know, previously we could write Tableau data extracts, hyperfiles, and CSVs. Now we can actually write to the data source. And the benefit of that, relational data stores, Redshift, SQL Server, Oracle, etc. The benefit of that is that we can now cleanse our data within Prep Builder for analysis, and we can feed it back into a central data store. So not only can Tableau access it, but the whole enterprise can access that data source that's ready to be consumed for analytics, reporting, and any other purpose. So I'll just give you a quick example of this. We have a spreadsheet here. I'll just add a clean step just to show you what we do. This is obviously a super simple Prep Builder flow, but we have a whole bunch of columns within this data set. And all I've done is aggregated it into 6 key columns, and then go to my outputs, and we'll go ahead and we'll click on there, and we'll see the new option to write back to the database table. Of course, we could write it back as a CSV, a hyperfile, or Tableau data extract. In this case, we're going to write it back to a Postgres database. I'm going to write it to this table name. The options that we have are create a new table, append to an existing table, and replace the data itself within a table. Okay, so I'm just going to create a table, and we'll go to that process. And I've already pre-run this flow just for performance sake, and I'm also having some network connectivity issues, so I just thought I would do it beforehand. And the end result, once we run this flow, is here, and I'll just show that and bring it up. And these are all the tables and all the new tables I've created. And then we get to see the pre-aggregated data source broken down into those 6 categories. So that is the power of the tool, writing back to the database, really making it an enterprise capable prep flow tool. And that's my allocated time for the desktop and Prep Builder. I wanted to pass over now to my colleague Sharanu.
Hey, thanks, Roger. You took away 2 minutes of my time, but that's cool. I hope everybody can hear me. So let me share my screen.
Yes, you're all good. You can hear you. Yep.
Okay, so since Roger covered most of the exciting features on the desktop side for 2020.2 and 2020.3, in the next 7 odd minutes, I will cover on the server side. So as you know, the analysts' popularity is experienced on the server side. So your dashboards, the great dashboards you design are consumed on the server most of the time, and mobile, as Satyam showed us some time back. So these features on the server side will make you even more rockstar in the coming days. So if you use all of these, so let me show you quickly in a snapshot about what are the new features which we introduced on the server side in the last 6 odd months. If you recall, Tableau releases every quarter one new release. So that's how we are structured. On the server side, the new features are, so if I divide on 2020.2 and 20.3. So let me cover 2020.2 first. In that, we introduced major around 6 or 7 features which I can talk about. There are many, but these are the main ones which I felt is very useful for the developers or even the consumers on the server. The first one is metrics, and we did a lot of improvements on the ask data. We are doing the improvement in the ask data on every version. You see improvement on the ask data in 2020.3 as well. Okay. And on the server, we have this option of reordering your favorites. You're giving that capability to the end user himself to reorder his favorites. I'll show you that. And now for you to be able to upload your workbooks on the server, you don't need a desktop. So you can upload or open your workbooks on the web. That's on the server itself. So also, we introduced some admin views, mainly on the backgrounder task, so which will make the admin's life easier on the Tableau server side. We have introduced 2 new, more popular requests on the data connector side. The one was ESRI, the web data connector on the server, and also spatial Oracle spatial support on the server as well. So these are the main ones on the 2020.2. 2020.3 come up with even more exciting features. So shared with me, you see the in the inverted comma there. Why that is more special is this is something which many consumers struggle on the server. So if somebody tells you that I publish a dashboard, go and find it. You sometimes get lost if the server has too many workbooks. So with this button or with this feature shared with me, you can just directly jump on to the workbook which are specially shared with you. Okay. And also there are options. Another great feature which we introduced on 2020.3 is grant license on sign-in. So this makes the Tableau server's Tableau server admin life more easier rather than adding a user and giving him a role and assigning him a role and telling him via email. So you can add license at the grant at the license when he signs in. So this is a great feature we added. And you can make now automatic suspension of refreshed extract task if the workbook is stale for some time. It is a predetermined time. If it is stale for some time, then you can automatically suspend the extract refresh for that particular workbook. That greatly improves the overall performance of the Tableau server as well. And you can create sets and data source filters on the web authoring also. These are the main features. In detail, if I want to talk about metrics is the main features which we released this year. Just to briefly, if you want to talk, is like if dashboards are your newspapers, metrics will be your headline. So you can see it, they are becoming more popular on the Tableau mobile. So you can monitor your KPIs for your business from anywhere. It provides a streamlined and consistent view of your data on any and one location. So it's easy to create. So this is done by the creators and explorers. So you have to be either a creator or explorer role to be able to create metrics. So it's very easy to create. So you can go ahead and try this on the Tableau server if you are on 2020.2 onwards. Okay. The other major feature is on the ask data. If you are using ask data over some time, it's already like a 1.5-year-old feature, which is our NLP interface for the Tableau server. If your end users are not finding the answers, business questions, they can ask directly to Tableau. So if the data source is published onto Tableau server, you can ask questions and get it as a form of visualization using plain text. With these improvements on 2020.2, you can custom suggestions with data roles. You can just ask something like median total score in an academic year or something like that. Custom made questions can be asked. It also supports the scripted data sources. So we have improved a lot on the enterprise control. So you can try this. This is another very good improvement on both 2020.2 and .3. We have make it more human friendly, or understands more on what the user is trying to ask. Okay, so this is a great development. And for people who are using or are accustomed to adding favorites to their workbooks on the server, so with this option of reordering your favorites in 2020.2, we provide the sort your favorite contains on the Tableau server by just dragging and dropping in the position you want. So this is a great feature. So you can just drag and drop something feature like this. Okay, so that adds a lot of value to an analyst who wants to make it more customizable and user friendly. Okay, so this is another feature on 2020.2. And now, as I mentioned, you can open and upload your workbooks on the web on the server. You don't need a desktop license to be able to do this. So without having a Tableau desktop, you can upload straight to the Tableau server. So this is a great feature which was asked since quite long by our community. And the last one, a very important feature on 2020.2 is we introduced a new server admin views. If you are familiar with the admin views on the server, these are very useful statistics about how your server is doing. For example, you can literally track down to the granularity of which user is accessing what view and how much time he is spending on each view. By doing that, you can do a lot of usability testing, saying that which are all the views which are always accessed, which are all the views which never got access. So you can fine tune to that extent about removing those views which never got accessed. Also, you can even track down users who never log into Tableau server. By doing that, you can assign these license, taking away from them and giving it to people who really use it. So in this release, we introduced a view on the backgrounder task view. So by using this, you can find out how long each job is run, and you can even find out event of failures or cancellations or completions of your background tasks. So which makes it easier for you to troubleshoot your performance issues of your server. So I was sure somebody was asking questions on the server performance. This particular admin views will provide you a lot more detail inside the server about what task is taking what time. So that's another great feature in 2020.2. Moving on to 2020.3 quickly, is this one which I told, this button using this shared with me, you can clearly see which are all the workbooks which are shared explicitly with you, so that you can directly click on this link and find out the only relevant workbooks or views which are shared with you. So this gives a very concentrated place to go and look for the views. So makes you spend very less time looking for a particular workbook on the server. Moving on, this one, as I said, is a grant license on a sign-in. So using this button, the Tableau server admin can, if he selects that, the user can just log in using his user ID onto Tableau server. Based on the availability of a license, he will be assigned the role being selected for that particular user. So this drastically brings down the time spent by Tableau server admin or the license owner to allocating these licenses for multiple users. And also, if on the server subscription task, so now we have given you another option of selecting the frequency of creating a subscription. So you have the option now to select subscription only when this extract is refreshed. So this works only on the workbooks with a single extract right now. We will take it to the next level by introducing it to all the extracts available on the server. Okay. There are a lot more improvements on the ask data also. So a lot more customized questions or more human-centric questions can be asked in this release. So where we have new option for subscription on the ask data as well. Now, the last one which I wanted to talk about is for server admins again. So if you feel that there are some assets which have become redundant, the admins can group all of them together in our Tableau catalog add-on. So this is a data management add-on which comes which is a separate add-on which you can buy. As you know, we have two add-ons. One is data management add-on and another is a server add-on. So this gives more power to the Tableau server admins to take out the redundant data sets which are no way useful in that. So there are a few more which I wanted to cover, but I'm running out of time. But I will list down, or we will list down on LinkedIn. The another one important one which we introduced is automatic suspension of extract refresh for any stale workbooks. If there is inactivity window of 30 days, so a Tableau server can automatically suspend extract refresh for that. So this can be a configurable entity, of course. By default, this is 30 days for now. And there were improvements on the Tableau bridge. For example, Tableau Online now manages bridge refresh on its own. So the server or bridge admin no need to log into the bridge machines manually right now. So that's a great add-on for the bridge when you're using Tableau Online for your data refreshes. So these are a few more, a lot more improvements or new features which we introduced. I'm sure this is recorded. You can go through this, or we will share you the link of all these new features. Easier or best way to find out the new features is just in Google, just type in what's new 2020.3 and what's new 2020.3, 2020.2. You will find all these features. You can sort out based on whether you are wanting to check on a server or a builder or a Tableau desktop. All these are provided right nicely on our website. Okay. Any questions on this? We are happy to take on the LinkedIn as well, or in these questions forward. And yeah, thanks for your time.
Fantastic. Thanks, Sharanu. So I just want to, wrap up with that. So thanks, Roger. I mean, both of those sessions were really, really interesting. I mean, you can see just how rapidly Tableau is evolving, and the fact that there are areas going on with data preparation and data management, areas around improving the data visualization algorithm side of things. So we've got, the raw data and managing raw data, but we've got, additional facilities for doing projections and all sorts of other manipulation. And then we've got all of these things that are happening on the server, not only to help with publishing and scale, but also just simply pure maintenance, especially when you're dealing with large enterprise implementations, and the ability for admin people to reduce some of the overhead, and that's the stuff that's going on. So absolutely fantastic stuff. I just want to quickly finish. So thank you again for all of the speakers. Really, really, really absolutely excellent stuff. I'm just going to quickly wrap up by just simply again reminding everybody, so we're finishing up, but I just want to remind everybody again of the Tableau conference. So the 2020 conference, it's happening from October 7th through to 9th, so it's not too far away, completely online. Hours and hours and hours of in-depth sessions, training from everywhere, from introductory training to quite advanced training. So really great opportunity, and especially with this ability to have a lot of these sessions available in Asia Pacific time is absolutely fantastic as well. So I know I'll be certainly joining a lot of those sessions. Quick just update on opportunities. I have actually been approached, even during these COVID times, I've actually been approached by a couple of people now looking for new Tableau resources. Now, I'm not going to share them again here, but what I want you to do is I definitely want you to monitor the emails that come from the meetup group in particular, because what I'll do is I'll use sort of broadcast to go out there. So if you're not registered on the meetup group, please do register on the meetup group, because I do send out emails occasionally talking about opportunities that are cropping up in various places. And some of those are not jobs that are publicly advertised. I've had a couple of people who have said, look, they want to come to the community first before they go outside. So watch the meetup group, watch emails that come from the meetup group, and I will send out more information about that soon. I'm always looking for new speakers. As you can see, sharing passion, it can be about a specific topic. It can be about a technology. It can be about a specific feature. Anything is fair game. I'm just always interested in people who just want to share with the community more than anything else. I already have a good backlog, so I've got a bit of a pipeline, but I'm always keen to get more people's names into that backlog. We probably will have another session just before the end of the year. I suspect, unfortunately, it'll be online again, and I don't mean that's a bad thing, but it'd just be nice to be back in person, but I'm just not absolutely sure that that's going to be the case in any large numbers anyway. So if we do an in-person event before the end of the year, it will probably be quite reduced numbers, I imagine. But I'll let you know. I'll keep you up to date with what's happening in that space. So again, look, I just want to say thanks everybody for participating. There was a question about whether or not this session will be made available because it has been recorded. And so the answer to that question is yes, it will be. So again, watch for emails from either Tableau from our logistics support team in Tableau, or via the meetup group. But there will be, presumably some announcement that says how you get access to that recording. So keep an eye open for that if you're interested. Again, all of our speakers, absolutely fantastic. You can tell just from the questions that there was a lot of ideas were being ignited and all that sort of stuff. So at that, I'm going to wrap up because we're just coming up to 7 o'clock. I did want to let everybody get away and get back to dinner and get back to the family and all that sort of stuff. Thanks again for everybody for participating. Stay safe, be kind to one another and to everybody, and stick with it. And we'll see you all again in hopefully in a couple of months' time. So I look forward to seeing everybody in person. Thanks again for attending, and I'm now going to stop the recording and then we'll shut the session down. But thanks again, everybody. Really, really, really appreciate everybody's time being here.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.